Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is David Chan, who serves as head of the Orchestral Performance Program at the Manhattan School of Music and serves as concertmaster of New York's Met Orchestra. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here and to have the chance to chat with you.
Well, it is so great to have you on the show. You are literally one of the most extraordinary leaders in this area and in this field. And so I'm really excited to talk to you. And I especially want to talk to you about the Orchestral Performance Program at Manhattan. Manhattan, one of our amazing creative partners, helping us to curate this show and just been a great partner to the show over the years. But I thought I would just start off because we have a broad audience who are in a variety of disciplines and people who are practitioners and administrators, leaders, and audience members. And just thought I'd start with orchestras. And wondering if you could share, you clearly are not only a leader, but have a passion. What about orchestras? What kind of for you stands out? And if you could answer it on two sides, one of being in the orchestra and that experience, and then also what you feel that value or connection that orchestras bring and are unique in terms of bringing to their audiences.
Those are all great questions. But first, just a little bit of thanks for that extremely warm welcome. I don't know if all those words of praise are deserved, but I do have a lot of experience with orchestra, so I feel qualified just by length of time that I've spent in and around orchestras to answer some of those questions. And they're very good ones. Lately, because my 14-year-old son has got the music bug and is aspiring to be a professional musician also, which for my wife and I is a mix of joy that he shares our chosen field and a little bit of terror as well. But because he's so interested, I've had the chance to take him to orchestra concerts. So that's something I've not done a ton of because I'm usually in the concerts, right? And so what I can see from both sides is, for me, the ultimate form of music really is chamber music. And I'll explain that just by the interaction one-on-one that feels so intimate between individual players. And orchestra, by definition, ought to be the ultimate because at its very best, you have chamber music happening between 80 or 100 players. And that's relatively rare because just by the sheer size and sometimes internal chaos of such a large organism, but when it does happen, that's a thrilling sort of effect that's just absolutely gratifying as a player. I would say as a listener, just the sheer range of instruments and colors that the orchestra affords, it just surpasses anything else. So I think for the more casual listener, chamber music can be a little bit forbidding to approach because the dialogue can be so intellectual between instruments. But with an orchestra, there's so much to look at. There's so much to listen to. Whatever strikes your fancy, it's there in an orchestra.
Absolutely. Well, it is just tremendous. And especially I'm always just overwhelmed sometimes with the volume and kind of what you were saying, the volume on stage, the literally sheer volume of sound that can just be so enveloping that you just sometimes feel like you're lost in whatever story is being shared or told through the music. So it really is an amazing experience. So to kind of delve to this, right? So you, of course, have in the upper echelon of creating that artistic experience for audiences. but that takes just a little bit of practice, preparation, and education in many ways. And so obviously programs like this are so important. So could you share with us a little bit just about the Orchestral Performance Program at Manhattan, and kind of first just what its components are?
Yeah, well, the Orchestral Performance Program, or OP as we refer to it at Manhattan School, it's been around for 30 years, and it's had great results. Graduates of the program have landed jobs in the most major orchestras in the U.S. and throughout the world. So it's no newcomer on the block. Its track record is well established. It's my first year as chair of the program. So it's a little bit of a transition for me as well as for the school because Glenn Dicterow, former concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic, co-founder of the program, he retired from the Philharmonic several years ago and decided now was the right time, living in California, to step away from the program. So the school approached me with my experience playing at the Met, also teaching, also I've conducted a lot. So all these different aspects of my career, they give me a good reference point to, I guess, lead the students in today's program, not only into orchestral excellence, but what the culture as a 21st century citizen of an orchestra might be. So that's kind of we have a lot of those components in place already. I'm really keen on emphasizing the latter aspect because the former components are already there. Um, Really, you can become qualified to be a member of a top orchestra without necessarily going through a specialized orchestral performance program, right? I mean, that's been borne out through conservatories for decades. People who are trained at the highest level and are great players, great musicians, decide to make a career in orchestra, take auditions, they can do it. But what we're trying to do and have done for 30 years really is offer a little bit more specialized window into extra training on the literature for auditions, which is excerpts, mock auditions, bringing in master teachers for classes who are not just great pedagogues, but current players in the top orchestras. So it's geared in that direction. And what I want to add to that mix is just that whole focus on what is the culture of being a 21st century citizen of an orchestra. The ability perhaps to be on a negotiating committee or understand what goes into fundraising, what goes into programming, what goes into thinking about the current issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, what goes into outreach in the community, et cetera, et cetera. I really believe that more is demanded of the current orchestral player as citizens than ever has been in the history of orchestra.
Absolutely. And so really preparing for the reality of the orchestral world today, which is amazing. And for especially those who are out in our audience and or who are teaching, those who are I'm about to describe in our audience, who are looking and are like, I want to do that. I want to get the big job, right, in the big orchestra. As you look at it today, is there, kind of the area where you're like, look, here's where there seems to be so much competition, right, for especially the top opportunities, the top slots. Is there something that, here is what at least I'm seeing as a key way to kind of stand out or to at least be position yourself in the best way to be considered for these extraordinary and very exclusive roles?
That's a wonderful question, and I really think it touches on issues of life and not just of music and playing violin or playing whatever instrument you happen to play. And it's having something to say, right? Because your competition at this very elite level, they're all going to be technically accomplished, they're all going to play their instruments very well. But having something to say sets you apart. And Oddly enough, I have a certain view of as these sorts of specialty programs develop, what I want to say to the students who are into them, who are in these programs, is don't over worry about the specialized aspect of the profession, but just have something to say. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's like as you find people who want to specialize in this area, the broader message becomes that much more important because they're already looking in a very focused way. So I want them to see kind of the big picture. Why do we do the arts in the first place? Is we can touch people, we can bring people joy, we can bring light into their lives, into their particular day or evening when they attend a concert. So if you have something to say, that is so much more meaningful than just being expert. And I think it's the same thing in front of audition committees. Um, and what I say about life, it applies to, I think, if you're interviewing for a job, interviewing for college, I think it goes so much beyond just taking an audition.
That is absolutely awesome, and I think so helpful for so many who are looking at this as a potential career path. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time. But I always like to ask my guests, kind of as a leader, what fuels them, what gives them strength during the toughest of times. And obviously, there's got to be some key challenges that arise in this amazing work you do. Where do you turn to for strength or for inspiration yourself?
Thank you for asking. For me, a big component is my Christian faith. My family is huge in all of this. And I also take comfort in the art itself. The work and life and the world and the industry are all full of challenges, but the art at its very best is full of beauty and light, and I take a lot of comfort from that too. So in challenging times, I look to those things for comfort and for stability.
David Chan, you truly are one of the arts engines who is fueling human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.